Hi and welcome to the Zbajchu walkthrough Pathfinder adventure card game. My name is Zbajchu and today I'm going to show you how to set up and play Pathfinder adventure card game. The first thing we do during setup is choose our heroes. So today I'm going to play two heroes. The first one is Valeros and the second one is Ezren. So we have a fighter and a wizard. Then the next step, we need to build our decks. We have the deck list for all the characters, from the basic set characters and from the add-on deck characters. But I strongly suggest to go online and download the errata, because there are some errors here in this deck list. So I've built already the decks for both of them. So Valeros, all decks are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 card decks. So we have some blessings at Valeros, some allies, and some items, armor and weapons. Here's the 15 card deck for Valeros and the same amount of cards for Ezren. We have some spells and a weapon. So this is what they start with. Now, at this point, we could exchange our cards between the characters, but we need to, at the start of the game, we need to have the amount of cards of each type listed on the back of our specialization character card. So you can see Valeros is starting always with 5 weapons, no spells, 3 armor, 2 items, 2 allies, and 3 blessings, whilst Ezren has 1 weapon, 8 spells, no armor, 3 items, 3 allies, and no blessings at all. After doing that, we won't gonna change anything. After doing that, we are ready to select our adventure. We have to decide if we're playing a story, adventure, or a scenario at adventure, or an adventure path. We're going to play an adventure, the basic one from the base set, which is called Perils of the Lost Coast. This is the adventure card. If we can get some focus on this, please. Yeah, there we go. And as you can see, it consists, the whole adventure consists of 3 scenarios: Brigandoom, the Poison Pill, and Black Fang Dungeon. And when we complete all of these scenarios, we get the reward listed here. For the first adventure, is each character gains a skill fate. What's skill fate? Each character has their own skills and attributes and powers. So let's take a look at Valeros here. Each character has a strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma skills. Some have secondary skills like melee or diplomacy in case of Valeros. And here's the list of a die that we will roll to check the skill, and any modifiers. So if we're going to roll a melee die, a melee test, we're going to roll a d10 and add 3 to the roll. Each character also has his powers. So the starting hand size for Valeros is 4. He's proficient with light armors, heavy armors, and weapons, and he can add 1d4 to another character's combat check at his location, and when he plays a weapon, he may recharge it instead of discarding it. I will tell the difference between recharging and discarding during gameplay. So that's our adventure, the Perils of the Lost Coast. Here's the story background. If we can focus a bit, okay. Generally, the town of Sandpoint has some problems with bandits, have some problems with poisoned people. People are being poisoned, so, and they need some heroes to take care of it. And we're gonna play the first scenario in that adventure, Brigandoom. This is how the scenario card looks like, and it tells us what's our villain, what are his henchmen, the special rules for this scenario, the reward for this scenario after completing it successfully, and on the other side we have the location we need to play this scenario. So I've already set up a couple of them. So for scenario Brigadoon, we need locations woods, waterfront, farmhouse, and as we're playing a two-player game, we need a wooden bridge as well. If we are playing a three-player game, we will add academy, 4-player prison, 5 garrison, and 6 we'll use all of these 8 locations. You can play a 6-player game when you add the character add-on pack. The base set is from 1 to 4 players. So I've already set up some of the locations. We have here we have the woods. So this is a location card, and on the location card we have the deck list of, and this shows us what's inside this location, the special rule of this location, what we have to do when closing this location, and what effect will it has when it's permanently closed. So to set up the location deck, we look at the deck list. There's always 9 cards here, and when it says you have to take 4 monsters for this location, so we get the monster deck from the base game. We're playing the basic adventure, so we only use the cards with the B symbol here on the top right corner. When we will start the Rise from the Runelords adventure, we can add all the number 1s here and all the promo cards, and we're gonna add successfully other cards as we will complete each scenario, each adventure. So we shuffle the monsters here, and the location card tells us to take 4 monsters from it. So we're gonna take 1, 2, 3, 4, and the rest is set aside. We also need 2 barriers. If we can focus again, yes. 2 barriers, a weapon, and 2 items in this location. So I'm gonna take the yellow border cards. These are barriers. I'm gonna shuffle them. Add 2 of them. We're gonna take 1 weapon. Again, quick shuffle. Add 1. And 2 more items. Now we have 9 cards, and this is the location deck. I've already done that for the other 3 locations. So at the waterfront, we know that there's also 4 monsters, 2 barriers. There's no weapons there, but they can be an item, and 2 allies. In the farmhouse, there's 3 monsters, 1 barrier, 1 weapon, 3 items, and 1 ally. And in the wooden bridge, on the wooden bridge, there are also 3 monsters, 1 barrier, 1 armor, 3 allies, and 1 blessing. Now, after we've done all that, we take the villain card. For this scenario is Jubral Whiskey. So here's his card. And his henchmen, which are listed just under henchmen here in this part. It says bandits, so we are going to add bandits. We had a henchman to the number of locations -1, so we have 3 bandits and Jubral Whiskey. We're looking for this one. This is our main objective, to find and defeat Jubral Whiskey. We take the 4 cards, get them a quick shuffle, and put one of them inside every deck. Now we have 10 card decks in each location. We're gonna take it and shuffle the location decks. So our goal is to find Gibral Whiskey and defeat him in combat and capture him to win the game. To do that, we have exactly 30 turns, sorry, not 40, but 30. We take the Blessing deck, we give it a shuffle, quick shuffle, and we deal 30 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. This is our timer. Each turn, each character turn, we're gonna reveal one Blessing deck, and if we won't find Gibral Whiskey and defeat it by the end of this, we are considered to lose this adventure. But if our characters survive, we can continue to play them and try again on this scenario. We can't go further than this scenario. So after all is done, we are placing our tokens, so these cards, on the locations where we want to start. So we have Valeros and Ezran, and let's look at the locations closer again. So in the woods, when a monster is undefeated other than villains or henchmen, they are banished from the game. So they normally, when you defeat a monster, when you don't defeat a monster, it goes right back in the location deck, and the deck gets shuffled. In this location, if it wasn't a henchman or villain, it will get banished. So banish is returned to the box. And to close this location, we need to succeed at a Wisdom or Survival 6 check. So we need to roll 6 or higher with our Wisdom or Survival. At the waterfront, when we are using weapons, we subtract 1 from each die roll. After our exploration, we may discard 2 cards to explore again. So when it's tougher fighting here with weapons, but we can discard cards to continue exploring the waterfront. And to close this location, we need to summon and defeat a bandit henchman. And when we are closing this location, all characters at this location discard a card. So everyone that were in the waterfront when the waterfront was closed discards a card. The farmhouse. At this location, if the player will discard an ally, bury it instead. So I will tell you what bury means later. And to close this location, we need to summon and defeat a random monster. And it has no effect when it's permanently closed. And finally, the wooden bridge. You may discard 2 cards to evade an encounter. So basically, if we encounter something nasty, we can discard 2 cards to run from it. To close it, we need to succeed at a dexterity or stealth 6 check. And when it's permanently closed, when you end your turn here, you may bury a card from your hand to recharge a card from your discard pile. So we can rest when it's permanently closed. So let's say that Valeros will start in the woods, and let's make Ezran join him as well in the woods. Now we have to shuffle their deck. Their starting deck. Here will be Ezran. Here will be Valeros. And Valeros will start. Each of the Valeros will draw 4 cards on his hand, as his hand size shows. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Ezran starts with 6 cards on his hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you need to know that your deck is your life, so whenever you need to draw a card and you don't have any cards in your deck, you automatically die. So you need it's a hand management game where you need to use your cards to the best of your advantages and stay alive. You need to know where to discard a card or when to just evade the encounter or things like that. So let's start with Valeros. There's another thing. Valeros has favorite card type weapon on the back of his character card here on top, and that says that in the starting hand he has to have a weapon, and there is it. It's a dagger. So Valeros starts with a dagger. Just fall down. So he has a dagger. He has a wooden shield, potion of hiding, and a mattock. And Ezran has to have a spell card in his starting hand. And Ezran has only allies and items, so there's no spell cards on his hands. He discards the discards. He takes 6 new. And he has 5 spells. So this is his starting hand, and the discarded cards go back in the deck and get shuffled. Now let's go through the turns. We will start with Valeros. So here's his hand of 4 cards. The first thing we can do is we have to advance the blessing deck. So we take 1 card from here, and it's the Blessing of Gods. This is the blessing for the first turn. The Blessing of Gods you can discard this card to add 1 to die check, but you have to have it on your hand. In the blessing deck, the Blessing of Gods can copy the top card of the blessing deck, the top shown card on the blessing deck. So sometimes you can add bonuses to your die roll, but not in the case of the Blessing of the Gods when it's on top of the blessing deck discard pile. So we advance the blessing deck, then we can give a card to another person, another character that's inside in an location with us. Then we can move to another location where we obviously won't move on the first turn, and we can explore. Exploring means just draw the top card of the deck and face it. So straight away we're facing a Bugbear. It's a Goblin Warrior Elite. If it's undefeated, bury 1 item or weapon of your choice from your discard pile. And he has a check to defeat rating of 10. So what do? We have a dagger. So for our combat check we can reveal this card and roll our dexterity or range die plus 1d4, and we can additionally recharge this card to add another d4 to this test. And we have a combat check, so Valeros strength is a 10-sided dice. If we revealed a dagger, we will have an 8-sided die and a 4-sided die. So we're probably gonna just reveal the card. So we have to determine what dice are we rolling. So we're gonna roll a 8-sided die for the dexterity, because the dagger allows us to roll our dexterity die, which is a d8 in case of Valorous. Then we add a 1d4 for revealing the dagger, and we can recharge it to add another d4, so I'm going to recharge it. Recharging a card means you take your deck and put it on the bottom of the deck, so it can return to your hand later, and we can add another d4. So this is our dice pool for this test, and we have to roll at least 10 or higher to defeat the bugbear. So let's roll, and of course we didn't defeat it, so we rolled a 3, 6, we rolled an 8. Here's our roll, so 3, 6 and 2 more, that's 8. And we lost to this monster. So now the first of all, we need to take 2 damage because we roll 8 and the combat check was 10, and the difference between those two numbers are damage that we are taking. But we have our wooden shield. We can recharge this card to reduce combat damage dealt to you by 2, so we won't take any damage. We're going to recharge the wooden shield. And now, if undefeated, we should bury 1 item or weapon of your choice from our discard pile, but we don't have anything in our discard pile, so we don't have to bury anything. And because we were fighting in the woods, the bugbear was undefeated and it gets banished. Now we could try and explore further if our cards will allow that, but we don't have cards to allow us to explore any further, so it's the end of Valorous turn, and at the end of your turn we need to reset our hand, so we need to draw up to 4 cards, and that will be the end of Valorous turn. Now it's Ezran's turn, so we flip another blessing. It's again the blessing of the gods. We can give a card to Valorous, but we won't do that. We can move, but we won't do that either. So we're going to explore. And we found a zombie. Zombie is an undead, and it has the traits undead, zombie, and basic. It has a check to defeat combat number of 9 in combat. You can see that small combat word. And the zombie is immune to mental and poison threats, half the damage dealt by the zombie rounding up, and if undefeated, each other character at this location summons and encounters a zombie. So if Ezran won't be able to defeat the zombie, Valorous will have to fight one as well. So that's not good. We would like to defeat it, and let's see if we can do that. So we can use our Force Missile spell. It's an arcane spell, and it says, for your combat check, discard this card to roll your arcane die plus 2d4 with the force trait. If we would not have the arcane skill, we would need to banish this card. But as you can see, we have the arcane skill in the intelligence section, and our arcane die is our intelligence die, so it's a d12 plus 2 for the arcane trait. So we're gonna roll 1d12 for our intelligence, 2d4s for the force missile card, and we're gonna add plus 2 to the total roll. So this is the card we played. Let's roll. And we roll a 17, 16, 19. So the zombie is dead. Defeated the zombie. And now when it comes to spells, we have a recharge ability on spells. So succeed an arcane 6 check, so we roll another d12 and add +2 to the roll, and we roll a 6 +2, that's 8. So we can recharge this card instead of discarding it, so the force missiles goes on the bottom of our deck. Now we can try and look to if we can explore anymore, but we can't. Usually you have to have a blessing or an ally to help you explore. So that's the end of Ezran's turn. Next up it's Valeros again, so we flip the blessing decks, and it's the blessing of Irori. So that's the blessing for Valeros' turn. And he has a mace. He has drawn a mace and a longsword on the end of the last turn. And of course, Ezran needs to fill up his hand to 6. And let's explore the woods again. So we have we found a weapon, a quarterstaff. It's a staff melee, so then there are the threads of the weapon. And for your combat check, reveal this card to roll your strength or melee die +1d6. You may additionally discard this card to add another d6. So it's a pretty powerful weapon. And to acquire, we need to, you can see check to acquire strength melee melee 3. If you can focus. Some problems with the camera. Focus on the camera. Oh, now you can see it. So it's check to acquire strength melee 3. So again, we look at Valeros' card. We see that his strength is a d10 and melee is +3. So we generally don't have to roll because it's an automatic success, but we're gonna roll a 10-sided die. We got a 3 in the roll. We add a +3 from the melee value, that's 6. And we can take the quarterstaff to our hand. And now at the end of Valeros' turn, he has to discard down to 6 cards, and he's gonna discard the quarterstaff. And that's it for the turn of Valeros. Now again back to Ezran. It's again the blessing of Irori is the blessing for Ezran's turn. Gonna lay out Ezran's cards here, and Ezran's going to explore the woods again. And he found a mystic inscription. It's a barrier, and if it's defeated, we add a 1d4 random spells from the box to your hand. So Ezran can get a lot of spells here, and if it's undefeated, he can banish this barrier instead of shuffling it back in the location deck. So it's a check to defeat, intelligence arcane 10. So again, we look at Ezran's card. His intelligence is d12, arcane is +2. So we're gonna roll a d12 and hope for a good result. We roll a 4 + 2 is 6, so we didn't reach the we didn't defeat the check. So we can now either shuffle it back in the deck or discard it. And the thing is that if we banish this card, the deck is thinner, so it's easier to go through the location. It's if we need to remember that everything is timed here. So I think we're gonna get rid of this card, and that's the end of turn for Ezran, as you can see. And we're gonna start with Valeros again, and the blessing of Iomeid or Iomeide. Here's how it's pronounced, I'm not sure. Here's the Valorous hand again. And he's going to explore again. And he found a collapsed ceiling. It's an obstacle. And the difficulty of this barrier is to defeat the barrier is increased by the adventure deck number of the current scenario, if any. So in this case, we will take the scenario card and look at the number in the top right corner. We have B, so it's basically a 0. If we would playing the first scenario, the first adventure deck of the Rise of the Rune Lords, we would have 1 here, so the difficulty wouldn't be 8, it would be 9. And if we fail the check to defeat by 4 or more, we are dealt 1 combat damage that may not be reduced, so basically the ceiling falls on our heads if we don't do well in the test. And if undefeated leave this barrier face up on the location deck, characters at this location encounter this barrier as their first exploration each turn and may not move or be moved while this barrier is face up on the location deck. So we just basically got caved in and can't do anything about it. So let's see. This is a Dexterity, Acrobatics, Constitution or Fortitude test. And unfortunately Valeros has a D8 in Dexterity and D8 in Constitution with no bonuses, so we will need to roll an 8 on an 8-sided die. Let's see the Matok. Reveal this card to add a 1d8 to your non-combat strength check, so this is not a strength check, so we cannot use the Matok. We're just going to roll a 8-sided die, and we got a 1, so we got one damage from it. We have to discard 1 card, so we're gonna discard a Matok. We're gonna draw another card, and that's the end of Valorous turn. At the end of the turn, he could have discarded something more, so let's say he's discarded the Potion of Hiding, so now he has all weapon cards in his hand. And back to Ezren. Ezren has the Blessing of Parasma, and let's see if he has something to help us with the collapsed ceiling. No, he has not. He has all offensive spells. So we look at his Dexterity, Acrobatics, Constitution or Fortitude. Dexterity is D6, Constitution is D4, so he won't pass it anyway. We can just roll his D6. Oh, it's a 6, but it's not good, no good. We're still trapped in the cave and we have to take 1 damage. So we're gonna discard Sleep and we're gonna draw up to 6. Now let's hope that Valorous can do something. Still don't have the means of modifying his Dexterity or Constitution, so he's going to roll a d8. And for an 8, that's not an 8 obviously, that's a 4. So 1 card of damage, and he discards 1 card to draw 2 cards, and he still can't find a blessing. The thing what you can do with a blessing, let's say we're gonna draw one. Let's cheat a bit. Say we draw the blessing of the gods. We can discard this card to add 1 die to a check, and we can discard this card to explore our location again. So when Valeros would have done the test for the collapsed ceiling with his dexterity, which is 1d8, we can discard the blessing of the gods to give him another d8 to roll, so he would have greater chance of success. So let's try that. Yeah, this is a demo walkthrough, so it's 9, and finally we get through the collapsed ceiling. You need to discard something because the ceiling fell on us. Draw 2 additional cards, and we can continue on to Ezran's turn, and Ezran has the blessing of Torag. He can use his detect magic, but he knows that there's no spells in the woods. There are only barriers, weapons, monsters and items. So he explores, he finds a ghoul, and the ghoul is immune to the mental and poison threat. If undefeated, reset your hand and end your turn. So we would need to reset is basically shuffle all these cards in your deck and take 6 new one. And he has a combat strength of 11. So we can use our lightning touch. We can roll our arcane die plus d2d4s with the electricity trait. So if something would take more damage from the electricity trait, this is the card that would give it to us. So we're gonna take our arcane die, which is d12 plus 2 and 2d4s. Again, this is what we will roll to defeat the ghoul. Come on, die. And we rolled an 11. So we barely managed to, you can see here, some roll of 11. So we barely managed to equal and defeat the ghoul. And we're gonna roll for the lightning touch to see if we can recharge it. We need a 6. We got an 8. So it's going to the bottom of our deck. When we finally will find the next card is Gibber Whiskey, so let's go and explore with Valeros. We have to defeat it before. If we defeat Gibber Whiskey now, we can close before the fight. Yeah, let's do it like that. Before the fight, if someone was in another location, he can temporarily attempt to close this location. So if Ezran was in the wooden bridge, he could do a dexterity or stealth 6 check. If he would pass this, we would close this location for the time being. And that's important because if we defeat Gibber Whiskey, he will run from us to one of the open locations on the board. So to win the game, we need to not only defeat him, but close all of the locations. And we can close the locations when we defeat a villain or henchman, or when we run through all of the cards in the deck. So that's why a good idea is to spread our characters to different locations to get the chance of closing that location when the villain comes out, and to start and digging through the location deck faster on two or two locations rather than just concentrating on one location. So let's do this fight. It's check to defeat combat at 10, but before the encounter, recharge 2 cards of your choice from your hand, and the special scenario rule: if a monster's power causes you to recharge a card, draw a card after doing so. So we have to recharge 2 of our cards. So we'll recharge the standard bearer and the wooden shield on the bottom of our deck and draw 2 more cards. So we have a mace, a night watch, a blessing of the gods, and a chain mail. And now let's try and fight Jubilee Whiskey. So we're gonna use our mace. The mace gives us our melee die, a strength or melee dice. So in the case of Valeros, it's a D10 plus 3. And additionally, we can reveal this card. So we just show everyone that we have the card. Additionally, we take 1d8. And we could additionally discard this card to add another d4. And the special ability of Valeros says when he plays a weapon, he may recharge the card instead of discarding it. So we're gonna use that ability. So we're gonna add another d4 to the roll, and we're gonna recharge this card. Now, before the roll, we have the blessing of the gods, so we can add another d10 to the roll to make sure that he will defeat Jubilee. But let's say that we are confident that this will be enough to defeat him, and it was. We rolled 19. So we did defeat the villain here, and Valeros can do an attempt to close this location, and he will do so. So he will roll his wisdom or survival 6 check. Focus. Yeah, here we go. So he will roll his wisdom or survival check, and he needs to roll a 6 or higher. His wisdom is d4. He doesn't have any survival, so he won't close this. Let's see what the blessing of Torak does. We can add 1 die to a check or add 2 dice to a non-combat strength check, so it won't help us in any way. But when we defeated Jubilee Whiskey, so he won't close the woods. When we defeated Jubilee Whiskey, we need to shuffle him in one of the open locations. And when you defeat a villain, you get to mix it with the blessing cards from the blessing deck from the box. When we will lose to him, we will take the blessing decks from our blessing deck. So we would have less time. Now we just shuffle, and he runs off somewhere. Just shuffle those decks. And now we know that he's in either the waterfront, the farmhouse, or the wooden bridge, which wasn't closed because no one was there. So Valeros didn't close the woods, and the next opportunity to close the woods will be when these 3 cards are drawn. Then we can close it. When there's no cards in the location deck, we can attempt to close the location every time we explore. And basically that's the game. There are some more keywords like on the cards, so let's talk about them briefly. So as I said, the cards can have a reveal effect, so as the maze. So you just show that you have the card, it goes back into your hand, it goes back into your hand, and that's it. You can, it's something like display, which I didn't find anywhere in the base game, but you're gonna put the card in front of you for your display. Discard, so you put the card into your discard pile. There's recharge, so recharging means to put the card under your deck, under your character deck. Bury, when you bury a card, you put it face up under your character card, and the card that you bury, you cannot use this card throughout this scenario until the end of this scenario, but you still have the card for the next scenario, so you can put this card into your deck for the next scenarios. And banish is that you completely lost the card, you just put it back in the box. Now after a scenario, no matter if it's completed or not, each living characters gonna have the opportunity to build their decks. So we take all the cards that we found during this adventure. Each player takes all the cards that he found, and he can build a deck from these cards, provided that he sticks to the limit. So Valeros can have never more than 5 weapons, 3 armor, 2 items, 2 allies, and 3 blessings in his starting deck. But the weapon types can change from scenario to scenario. So let's say he's starting with 2 long swords and a short sword. Maybe he will find a magic sword to replace one of those. Let's take a look real fast. Oh, Jabril Whiskey was just here in the waterfront. Also, maybe the heroes would find this glaive. And Valeros, or indeed Ezren, thought that it was better than the weapons they have already in their deck, so they can put this glaive in and remove one of the weapons they were starting the scenario with. And that's all. That's Pathfinder adventure card game. You're gonna go from scenario to scenario. You're gonna get card rewards, you're gonna get skill rewards. So when we would finish the Paris of the Lost Coast, we would get each player would get a skill fate, and then we can tick one of the boxes in this section here of the character cards, the skills section, where we would add a bonus to a specific die. So let's say we can make Ezren stronger, so he would roll a d6 and add 1 to the die roll when he rolls his strength die. And sometimes we will get powers, so we will check these boxes here, so he can add 1 to his checks to recharge a card, or maybe later add 2 to his die roll, or add some more cards to his starting hand. We could have some card that would be a card feed, so we will need to check one of the boxes here. So our life is increased by 1, and we have 1 more of the desired card type, so we can add another spell to his starting deck, or another weapon, and things like that. There is also loot on some of the scenarios. Here's the example, it's a special card. So here's Shidoran medallion. And that's basically it. That's all of that the game is. We just make your deck, choose your characters, advance them as you will like, battle different scenarios, and try to defeat the whole Rise of the Rune Lord campaign. And thank you for watching. See you later when I would make my impressions video on the Pathfinder adventure card game.